Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Before I get into this video, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. It'll just really help my channel to grow. Obviously YouTube isn't something I'm doing full time at the moment, so it would really help me out and help my channel grow and help me be able to do more videos like this one, for example. But if you read the title, you already know that I will be doing another trailer review or breakdown as I did my previous one, which was the House of Gucci. So if you haven't watched that, you can watch that now. But this one is about the new Venom trailer that's literally just dropped. Obviously I'm not getting this out the same day it's dropped, but it's just dropped. And let me tell you, it has some interesting things in there. But before I get into the trailer, I just wanted to say two things that I noticed before we sort of break down the trailer, which is, one is the look of Carnage. So if you look at Carnage side by side with Venom, they look very similar. They actually look very similar. The only difference is obviously like the colour of Carnage compared to Venom. He's red and then Venom's black. And then little other details that are different, but the face, look at the face, he looks so much like Venom, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I mean, it can be, but they could have made it slightly different. I don't know, I just feel like they look too similar, but it still looks good. And another thing is the release date. So if I'm not mistaken, originally they had a release date of September 24th. And then now, obviously releasing this trailer, it just says coming soon. So I'm not too sure if that means that they're not keeping their original release date, or if they're still not sure, or obviously because of the pandemic maybe, I don't know. And then you've got obviously Spider-Man coming out in October, so I don't know why they would change it, because I think September would have been a good date for them. I can't really think of what else is going out in September that is even similar to this. So yeah, that's just two things I noticed. If there's anything else you noticed that I haven't mentioned, please let me know in the comments. So we'll take a quick break, grab your coffee and grab your tea, and let's get straight into the trailer. So now that we're back, we would have noticed that the second trailer for Venom is basically an origin story of Carnage, which I love origin stories. I love when they do these kind of things in movies, and I love that we're going to be seeing more of that rather than just continuing how we were. Even though I loved the first Venom, and I know a lot of people didn't, I actually enjoyed it, but I'm glad they're doing more of the origin story and letting us sort of dig deep into what the character is. As we know, he is a truly terrifying villain. He's actually a really great villain, and I'm so excited that Woody Harrelson is playing him, because I absolutely love him. So that is a bonus for this film already. So as we know, Sony's Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer unleashes Cletus Kasady as the evil villain Carnage, of course, and the look is already great. What they've shown, it's quite a long trailer, so I was a bit scared that they're going to show too much, but they didn't. And in the comics, I don't know too much about the comics, but I have like looked into it and things like that. We know that Carnage is one of the most dangerous villains around. I think that's simply because he has no other goal other than to just spill blood. That's his goal. There's no other motive, there's nothing there other than he just wants to just destroy everything and anything that he can. And I think that sometimes makes for a more evil and scary supervillain. The new trailer for Venom, Let There Be Carnage, opens up with a shot of Cletus Kasady transforming, and it's accompanied by a disturbing line of dialogue that really does sum up pretty much everything you need to know about the character. All I ever wanted in this world is Carnage. Then the serial killer, Kasady, takes on a disturbing dark blood red colour instead of Venom's basically black colour that we obviously saw in the original. So now he's this red, almost like blood sort of looking character, which is actually quite terrifying. And then as we can also see in the trailer that Eddie, obviously played by Tom Hardy, is really struggling to sort of take control over Venom, and he's trying to, you know, he doesn't want Venom to just sort of appear whenever. He's basically trying to control him, but he cannot, and he's really struggling to do that. And I think that's where he's sort of fighting his inner demons of trying to do that. Obviously, whilst we're being introduced to Carnage in this trailer as well, or this film. I think the fundamental problem is that, as Venom says, he's a predator, a hunter, whose every instinct tells him to feast on his prey. And we never really got to see this concept much in the comics or anything else. So I think they're trying to explore this more in this film. As you've got more room to play around with things like this, especially in films, so I think they're really going to explore that sort of battle between the predator that is Venom, and then obviously the human being Eddie, and how that conflict sort of appears and sort of how they try and deal with that as the story sort of goes along. And obviously we know that Eddie, he wants to use it as good, you know, he is, I would say, a good person all in all, and he wants to use it as a way of being good and not evil, which is initially what you know Venom is. You know, still, you know, they're not superheroes, are they? So he really wants to try and use his powers and his strength for good, but that's where that sort of battle is between evil and good. And Venom, as we know, becomes San Francisco's protector, as we see him sort of looking over the city, trying to sort of see which bad guys he can go up against. So yeah, he's basically looking out for the city, and he's basically kind of like the Superman or the Batman to Gotham in a weird way. The trailer seems to show quite a lot of shots actually that show Venom trying to protect the city and trying to be that hero that we kind of sort of got a glimpse with in the first film. Even in a shot where he originally seems to want to sort of dig into a human, whereas Eddie's obviously trying to restrain him and trying to control him in that way, so he doesn't obviously go full monster on people, as we know he could if Eddie wasn't there to control. Apparently Eddie is keeping him in check by having him bite down on car tires hanging from the roof of his apartment, while threatening he'll be hauled off into Area 51. It's unclear whether this is a legitimate threat or simply something Eddie just believes. So it's something that he probably just sort of made up in his head, as opposed to something that might actually happen, so we don't know. And as we know, in Venom 2 we're introduced to the Ravencroft Institute, which is the first look at this, which we didn't obviously see in the first film. And this is basically Marvel's version of Arkham Asylum, which played a pivotal role back in Spider-Man in the 90s. And I'm not sure if this film will sort of dig deep into the Institute itself. I know they try and explore that more in the comics and the backstory of Ravencroft, but I don't know how much they will show in the actual movie itself, whether we'll just get, you know, just a few glimpses into it, or whether they'll actually go more into the backstory as the comics sort of suggested. So as we know from the trailer, Carnage won't be the only villain that Eddie has to go up against in this new film, which is actually exciting that we're getting to explore more villains, and there'll be even more for Eddie to sort of deal with if he hasn't got enough already on his plate. But it's good that we're going to be exploring that more and not just sticking to Carnage as the main villain. He will basically be going up against another inmate at Ravencroft Institute, and I hope we explore that a little bit more and not just put it as like a side character in the film, because I hope it's part of the plot more than what initially I'm kind of thinking it might not be, but I don't know. We'll see when obviously the film comes out. So the character that Venom will be going up against is, and as we learn, is a young woman in the Institute, and basically Shriek becomes a twisted psychopath and then an associate of Carnage's while they are both incarcerated in Ravencroft. So it almost seems like I don't know if they'll be teaming up, but they're definitely associates in some way. And I guess maybe they might go up against Eddie or Venom together. I'm not entirely sure, but maybe they will. And it may pay out to be quite interesting if obviously he's got not just Carnage to go up against at one time, but he's also got this other villain, and they might team up. Who knows? And basically this character, she was drawn to his bloodthirsty philosophy and quickly joined him after his breakout, becoming a key player in the events of Maximum Carnage. As I quote, "She's dangerous too," he observed in one interview, "and I think she has her own sense of fairness and being just. And I think when that line is crossed, when you see a very, very dangerous dark side to her, and that's what we wanted to do with this character." So I think it'll be interesting to see that origin story and explore that a little bit more, because just from that quote alone, we know that it will be a good story to add to this film and explore that in more ways. So I think that's going to be quite interesting. So yeah, let me know if you are interested to find out more about that character in the next film. Sorry guys, look at my puppy, what he's doing as I'm trying to film. He always does this. Stop, he'll sleep in a minute, guys. So another point is Venom's aggression is starting to basically get out of control. He's starting to lash out at Eddie himself. And that's obviously not good for either one of them, because they need each other. As much as they don't think they do need each other. He basically utters the words, "You're a loser," after he's continuously basically headbutting Eddie, as we can see. And yeah, there's this conflict that they're having, which is not the good time to have this conflict when now you're going to be going up against Carnage and basically another villain. So it's not the good time for them to be having this conflict. But it's kind of funny where it's like, "You're a loser." So who knows how this friendship or relationship will play out between them. But as we can see, sort of, if we're comparing Venom from the first film to this film, he's become very assertive, and he's starting to sort of try and take control over things more, and I don't know if it's because Eddie's letting him, or he's just becoming weaker and Venom is becoming stronger, and he's just becoming smarter and more assertive, and he's able to control Eddie more than he was initially. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking at the origin story of Carnage. As we know, Carnage basically bites Eddie, but he kind of realizes, his blood tastes a little strange. And I don't think at this point he knows that Venom is basically a part of him. And I think that's where he's kind of thinking, it shouldn't be tasting like this, what is going on? Basically, this seems that it is Venom 2's origin for Carnage, when he basically bites Eddie, and then he takes a bit of that energy from Eddie, and that's basically where Carnage is born, because now he's taken a bit from obviously what Venom is, and then now it's basically part of him now, and that's where we get to find out how Carnage is basically here. Obviously we know there's going to be a lot of Carnage in this film, as what the trailer shows, and a lot of blood and things like that. But one thing that was surprising was when Carnage bit a guard, or well, he basically, I don't want to use the word just in case for YouTube, but he basically gets rid of a guard. So basically, rather than sort of slashing a guard to pieces, as probably what he would have done in the comics, Carnage's tongue extrudes down his throat. So basically, while this is a really gross way of getting rid of the man, it may be rather more sinister, because in the comics Carnage has developed the ability to control others. So maybe this is a way that it shows that he's now controlling other people. So rather than sticking to exactly what the comics would have shown Carnage to be, and for him to obviously do this to people. They're kind of exploring different ways, which I think is quite clever. And basically in the trailer, we kind of see that Carnage is now dominating San Francisco. There's a lot of shots of him sort of overlooking the city and rampage in the city, and basically trying to take over what initially was Eddie's. As we know, as we mentioned earlier, Eddie was sort of trying to protect San Francisco, whereas now Carnage is basically destroying the city. And it's basically a contrast to Eddie's previous role as the lethal protector of the city, and now we know that nope, Carnage is here and Carnage is taken over, and now he's basically going to destroy everything unless obviously Eddie stops him. So in this trailer, basically we kind of get a glimpse into Venom and Carnage's first basic encounter. From what we have initially seen. Obviously I don't know how much more is going to be in the actual film, but we can see that obviously this is their first encounter. Basically with Venom retreating in shock, that is a red one, and Venom declares that in horror when he obviously sees Carnage. Obviously we know Carnage is red, as we've seen from the picture earlier, so that's basically what he says when he meets Carnage. But clearly, as we know, in Sony's movies, red is kind of symbolic, so it could be the reason why obviously Carnage is the way that he is in this film and this trailer. It could even mean that the process doesn't work the same way, explaining why Carnage's powers appear to work differently to Venom's. So who knows, we might explore that a little bit more as the film comes out. We may explore why Carnage's powers are different to Venom. So basically, as we have learned that Eddie is forced to basically strike a new deal with Venom. Basically, in order to get him to fight Carnage, he's basically promising him that he will let Venom eat anyone, which obviously we probably won't just let him eat anyone, but it's probably just a way for him to try and trick Venom into actually fighting Carnage by giving him or promising him something that we know he really wants. And we know that Venom basically enthusiastically agrees to this. Of course, why wouldn't he? He wants to basically eat as many people as he can. But I think Eddie will later on regret the deal he's made with Venom, because I don't know how he's going to go back on that if Venom actually does decide to go up against Carnage, and obviously if he wins, what is the deal there? And the last point in this trailer breakdown is basically that Anne is engaged. So as with many movies within Marvel, it basically ends with a humorous ending and more of a sort of light-hearted ending. After all, there's action and everything else. It seems his ex-wife has moved on and is getting engaged to a doctor. So she's actually finally moving on, and I don't know how that's going to affect Eddie, but obviously he's not going to be happy that she's basically moving on and sort of leaving him behind. So basically, whilst Eddie is able to actually congratulate her, whether he actually is happy for her or not, we know that Venom is not at all pleased with this news. And as we know, because Venom's not very happy about it, he's basically lashing out at Dan, like, this dude needs some serious counselling or some couples counselling or something like that. So it kind of shows that although Eddie can pretend, I think, to be happy for her, even though I'm guessing he's not, he can't obviously control, you know, what Venom says or how he feels, and it's kind of his way of sort of expressing his true feelings through Venom, because he doesn't actually want to do it, or he can't do it himself. But obviously we know he's not going to be happy about Anne getting engaged to someone else. But that is it for this trailer breakdown. It's not a very long breakdown. I've tried to include some main points that I think would be key things in this trailer, and to obviously look out for in the film when it's released. If there's anything I have missed or haven't mentioned, then please let me know in the comments. I'm sure there's a lot more that we can discuss. Let me know if you're excited for the second Venom to come out, because I know I'm looking forward to it. If there is any other trailer sort of breakdowns that you want to see from me, then please let me know in the comments as well. And yeah, that is it from this trailer. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay safe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Mwah!